My husband sold our family home while I was in the waiting room for our daughter's emergency heart surgery and texted me a list of local homeless shelters because he said my emotional baggage was too expensive to maintain. I sat in that plastic hospital chair clutching my daughter's stuffed bear, watching the security footage on my phone as a moving crew led by my mother-in-law Beatrice literally threw my medical textbooks and heirloom quilts into a dumpster on the curb. Beatrice looked directly into the doorbell camera and sneered that a charity case like me should be grateful I had a roof over my head for 7 years before the family finally decided to upgrade to a woman who actually brought a dowry to the table. Julian didn't even have the courage to call me. He just changed his relationship status on social media to single and thriving, tagging a 21-year-old fitness influencer at a champagne brunch while our 4-year-old was still under anesthesia. He thought he had successfully liquidated our entire life for a fresh start, but Julian's pure arrogance had blinded him to the most basic fact of our marriage. I wasn't just the quiet bank teller he liked to show off at corporate dinners to look humble. I was actually the chief executive and founding partner of the private equity group that had just finalized the hostile acquisition of his father's struggling logistics empire. When I walked out of that hospital 12 hours later after being told my daughter was stable, I didn't head to a shelter. I went straight to the 5-star hotel Julian was using as his freedom suite and walked right into the middle of his celebratory party with a team of 4 process servers, and the local sheriff. Beatrice was wearing my mother's vintage diamond tennis bracelet, laughing about how they'd finally cleansed the family of a social climber, but her face turned the color of spoiled milk when the sheriff handed Julian a formal notice of immediate asset seizure and a criminal restraining order. I stood there still in my wrinkled surgical scrubs and pulled out the original deed to our Homia property that had been part of my family's legacy trust for 3 generations, which meant his bill of sale was a fraudulent document already being flagged by the FBI. Julian tried to scream that he was the owner of the firm and that I was disturbed, but I simply turned my laptop around and showed the live recording of the board meeting where I, as the new majority shareholder, had officially terminated his contract for cause due to the systematic misappropriation of company funds he'd used to pay off Beatrice's secret gambling debts. I looked at Beatrice and told her that if she wanted to see a real charity case, she should look in the mirror, because by sunset her private bank accounts would be frozen and the luxury SUV she was driving would be reported as stolen corporate property. Julian fell to his knees in the middle of the hotel lobby begging me to think of our family, but I just looked him in the eye and told him that family doesn't sell the roof over a sick child's head, and they certainly don't underestimate a woman who knows exactly how to build an empire from the ground up while they're too busy trying to steal the curtains. I walked out as the hotel security escorted them to the service elevator, leaving them with nothing but the designer clothes on their backs and a legal bill they couldn't dream of paying, because some people don't realize the person they're stepping on is actually the one holding up their entire world. By the time Julian tried to call his lawyer, he realized I'd already hired the top 3 firms in the city on a permanent retainer, leaving him to represent himself in a court where I owned every single receipt of his betrayal. He thought he was throwing me out, but he was actually just handing me the keys to a life free of parasites, and as I drove back to the house he thought he'd sold, I realized that the best revenge isn't just winning, it's watching them realize they never even had a chance to play the game.